Welcome to the Zoetrope Kickstarter, a tabletop role-playing game based on time travel patrol. I'm Dane Asmund, representative for Cosmic Mirror Games, and this is a Genesis Engine game, similar to many of our other small games we've released recently, like Dogs the Game, New Aether, and Generations. In Zoetrope, you play a tabletop role-playing game, but using cards. In this game, while dice can be useful in some cases, you're going to not need any character sheet, you're not going to need any dice. The game is entirely based on the 180 core game cards. To start a game of Zoetrope, you need to set up your timeline on the table. Now, in order to play this game, you're going to need a few people. Preferably, it's anywhere from 3 to 4 players and a story leader. Players are going to play player characters just like normal in any other game, Dungeons & Dragons, etc. They're going to have character with different attributes, stats, items, and they're going to be the ones taking part in the action. Story leaders, the SL, is going to be the person who determines what happens in the story, how the world reacts to what player characters do, and they're going to play as every other character who isn't a player character. Now, to start off the game, you're going to have to give each character a role card. Roles give you a little bit of information on what your character is capable of doing, and tells you the number of different cards they can have. Next, you're going to deal out 2 traits to each player. Traits are just things that help differentiate your character a little bit more. They give your character a little bit of a description and some unique abilities. For example, with the Time Tracker card, it increases the number of time cards you can have by 1. Now, on your roll, in this little bubble here, you can see there are numbers in particular colored boxes. These are telling you what your card maximums are. The red one is your actions. You get to have 3 different action cards based on this roll. Actions can be anything from the attack card here to find, which allows you to find anything you're looking for, or the chase card, which lets you chase people down. There are 8 different unique action cards in the core game, and each allows you to take a different kind of action that affects the world around you. Next are the gray cards, the gear cards. Gear is all of your items, your equipment. Things like weapons, like the baton. Some of them include meta tools, which allow you to heal friends. There are different guns instead of batons if you want to actually do some real damage. There's money, there's rope, there's all kinds of fun different gear cards, and in the core game, there are about 18. Next is the blue box, and that is the time cards. Time cards are the ones that allow you to affect the timeline itself. This is what makes the game really strange and unique, and is what drives the core of the time travel action. Listed here is the Recur card. Recur allows you to travel backwards on the timeline and undo a bunch of actions, which we're going to see in practice. Finally, after you've had all your cards given out to players, the story leader is going to reveal the event card. The event card allows you to, without having any setup before game, run the game. Just hop right in and let things unfold. This one is the butterfly effect. As you can see on the starting event at the bottom of the card, it says someone did something minute during time travel. Time to fix the tiny mistakes. This is important because even the smallest effect somewhere in time can drastically change the future. So the starting event is what you're going to reveal at the start of the game. The rest of the stuff listed on the event card are things that can happen during the game if the story leader feels the game is slowing down or maybe needs some spice added. Now, to start the game off, one of the player characters plays a save point time card. This goes in tandem with the Recur card. So they place the save point at the front of the timeline, and that means the next time that someone uses a Recur card, it's going to travel all the way back to that save point. Next, a player plays the Find action card. Now keep in mind all of this is happening along with roleplay. The story leader probably explains to the players something like, a man did something very minute 30 years ago. You need to go back, figure out what it was, to stop the assassination of a president, which wasn't how time used to be. The group goes back, and they're like, okay, we have to find some minute action that happens around the president that leads to his death. So a player plays the Find action card, saying, I'm going to look for something that looks suspicious or a little strange. Usually you're looking for a time traveler. They're the ones who are messing up the timeline. So they play a Find action card, and the story leader tells them that they notice a man who seems to be loitering around the path for the president's motorcade soon. They think that might be the person. As they approach the man, he begins to run, so another player plays the chase card, showing that they are effectively going to chase after that person. Whenever you play a card, it's assumed that you accomplish the task that you state. Since there are no dice, the cards help control what you can and can't do. The chase card gets played, a chase is had, they find the guy, and they corner him. Another player decides, I'm just going to take action. They play the attack card. Using the baton that we looked at earlier, they're going to deal out a basic wound to the target. Now, wounds have two parts to them. The main part, which you see when you look at it normally, is the damage that you take or that the target takes. When you time travel, it flips over to permanent and becomes permanent damage. Sometimes the damage gets reduced, sometimes it gets made worse. But in this case, player who attacks dealt 1 damage with their baton. Now, all characters are considered to have 5 health. That's in the core rules, and it's on a few trait cards that alter your health. But 1 damage is a pretty good sign that you mean business. So they hit the guy. Unfortunately, the guy turns around and he attacks back. This wound did a little bit more damage, and so it did 2 damage to the player who attacked. We're going to assign that to the player who got attacked. Another player decides, this isn't going to work out. We're going to go and heal up, so they use their meta tool to get rid of the other person's wound. And another player says, this definitely wasn't the guy. They checked in with their handler and they asked, was time fixed? We beat up a guy. And they said, no, time is not fixed. You're going to have to retry that. They decide that beating up a random guy wasn't a very good choice, so they're going to do a little bit better job next time, but first they're going to recur. Recur takes every card off of the timeline back to the most recent save point. Bam, gone. And whenever you recur, your roll's recursion power comes into effect. For the replacer, this says when recurring, discard all action, gear, time, and wound cards, then redraw those. You may discard any one of those cards. This allows you to completely throw away all of the cards that you have and draw new ones. It also helps keep the game a little exciting by constantly changing what you have available. However, the recursion power is not the only thing you rely on. You also have things on your trait cards. Homebound, for example, says at the start of the game and each time that you recur, you get a recur time card. It does not count against your time maximum. The final part to recurring is you redraw up to your maximums. So, as you can see, a bunch of random little cards have been used so far by each player, and they're going to redraw those cards to hit back to 3 of each kind. This helps ensure that every time you recur, you have new options to retry the mission. Action, gear, and time cards are the main cards for players. But the story leader has cards that they also rely on. As we saw with the starting event, there are many other event options on the event card in the center. If the story leader feels the game is getting pretty slow, like if they've retried that mission over and over again and they keep accomplishing almost nothing, the story leader might decide it's time to spice it up a little. Now, they can reveal an event card at any time and choose any of the options that are in the center of the card. A mugging leaving you injured and down an item might be a really big part of this. What if someone steals an item from you and it turns out that it's time travel technology, and they're the reason the president died? So the event cards can both add a new problem for the players to deal with, and they can help you find a new path to dealing with your current event. Now, the game has 180 core cards in the core game. However, in this Kickstarter, we're presenting 4 expansion options. One of them is unlocked at the very start, and is going to be a Kickstarter early exclusive, and it won't release for 6 months after the Kickstarter ends, so you can get in early on that. But there are also 3 that we're going to unlock as stretch goals if we make it that far. The first one is Strange Things. Strange Things introduces a weird supernatural element, and it introduces new cards in the form of magic cards. There are also different roles and traits and events that allow you to tap into these magic cards. The second expansion is Extremes. Extremes introduces new cards in the form of catastrophe events, which are very different than normal events and build up a very big issue in your game. But it also introduces a bunch of gear, weapons, actions like double and triple attacks. The third expansion, Time Mismanagement, brings in operators. Operator cards are NPC cards to fill in for your handler. They're the person who helps you on your mission, and they're the ones who determine whether or not you succeed, and they're the ones who sometimes will do you favors. And for the 4th expansion, the one that's unlocked from the very start, Exogenesis, we have cards from all of our other different games. Shown here is the dog card from Dogs the Game. Each of our different game worlds and worlds for the novels that we're also releasing is represented in this set, and it's a bunch of just really weird, wacky stuff. Things like dog, but also things like mutations, strange new weapons, a little bit of everything. This one features additional cards for every other expansion, so it includes new operators, catastrophes, and magic cards. Now, I have done literally all of the work for this game. I designed it, I tested it, I took it to Gen Con, I had a friend run some Gen Con games of it. I was waiting to gather enough money to sort of get it funded for design. I finally just gave up on waiting on it. I decided if I've done everything else for it, I'll do everything entirely. I've been doing collage art for the game. It's pretty simple, pretty clean, and it's just a way that I can ensure the game is going to come out on time perfectly, because I am the one in control of everything. Zoetrope is a perfect game for one-shots and getting people into role-playing for the first time. It's very rules simple, rules light, rules obvious. You can sit down with a group of people who've never role-played before, just say, hey, we're going to pretend to time travel, and just have fun with it. It can be as silly or as serious as you want. So get in on it today. There are awesome backer levels that you can check out where we'll include your picture, or you can suggest a custom card. So check it all out. Please help us support it, because the more that we can get done, the more games we release, the more that we can ensure we can do larger projects. Thank you so much for checking this out, and hopefully we'll see you on the other side.